বলছিলাম যে আমরা আজকে ইলিয়ট, টি.এস. ইলিয়ট, ইয়েটস এবং বার্নার্ড শ এর বিষয়ে একটু জানি। ঠিক আছে, একটু পরে দাও, তুমি খেয়ে নাও। আচ্ছা, যে বিষয়টা আসছিলাম যে আমরা একটু একটু বলি যে তার আগে জয়েসের কথাটা কালকে যেখানে জয়েস শেষ করেছিলাম, যে জয়েস জেমস জয়েসের যে বিষয়টা ছিল সে the technique he applied and the এক মিনিট is James Joyce or the modernist writer. They applied variety in their writing, in the theme of writing at the same time, and the theme of and their structure and the form of writing. So James Joyce, in this way, James Joyce is very much advanced to apply the artistic structure, artistic images, or artistic components to apply in his literature. At the same time, he applied or used very much. He used very much logical sense, or we can say that he applied very logical sense. Applied reason in his writing. Not only a portrait of the artist as a young man, rather Ulysses and other Dubliners. These are also his important writing, where we see that the crisis that started from the World War First and World War Second, that is the crisis. At the same time, that expression, that is questioning, that raised as the result of World War First and World War Second. This type of questioning and applying logic or thinking from reason, this James Joyce applied these sort of terms, these medium, these components in his writing. So, and Joyce, whereas D.H. Lawrence, Henry Fielding, or Henry James, or Thomas Hardy was very much employed very much social components or social problems in their writing, whereas Joyce was very much personal. That is, he concentrated on individualism, self, mostly in his writing. Okay, Jodio, the beginning writers of modernism, that is the beginning writers, that means the writers who by birth possessing Victorian period, but started the writing or applied the form of modern period. These writers, the early writers of this modern period, they are somehow close to the society, social crisis and social changes. Whereas Joyce, Joyce Lawrence, they are the very much close to the self, the existence of self, the demand of self. They applied this their demand, or they prioritize self, that is individualism, the philosophical idea of individualism applied mostly in their writing. Okay, now please turn to the components or the general characteristics of the novel of this time. Okay, কিরকম ভাবে বলছেন that this period was dominant by this modern period was dominated by novel. Why novel? Because this time they felt that they had many things to say. They felt that they must portray their reality, and at the same time, right as they started asking, so they had many questions, and the questions has variety of answers. So that's why this novel, this time the novel has its own variation, and it dominated the time. Okay, also one of the most striking features of the history of the novel is the speed with which it has developed. Not before the 18th century, যেমন novel কথা বলতে গিয়ে বলছে throughout the 19th, its status grew rapidly in the hands of Bronte, Dickens, Thackeray, George Eliot, and Maggie. But in the period now under review, the novel for the first time gains an undoubted ascendancy over all the literary form, and an ascendancy it has maintained until very recent years. Its growing importance has been accompanied by serious study of the art of the novelist, and from a technical point of view, the progress of the last 60 years is unequaled in all its previous history. তাহলে কি ধরনের conception বুঝছেন? The emergence, the rise of novel is very much different from in this period, is very much different from the earlier periods because of the seriousness of the study of the theme. Okay, and the conception of the novel as an art form, kirokom, yes, though literature is literature, art, architecture, music, these are different. These are separate field of creativity or artistic forms. But how novel got its own place as artistic form. Kirokum? The problem of the aim and scope of the novelist is now seriously posed in England for the first time. Hardy, Wells, Conrad, James, Glasworthy, and Moore devoted themselves to this question. All would have endorsed the statements of Wells' statement, common statement, which before we have done, we will have all life within the scope for the novel. From the definition of ends to means was a short step, and James and Conrad evolved techniques which revolutionized the novel. They abandoned the direct loose biographical method in favor of an indirect or oblique narrative with great concern for pattern and composition. The characterization built on the study of the inner consciousness. It is in his manner that much modern fiction has been written. So, what are the characteristics? Many prominent points we identify for the novel formed in this modernist period. Bolchen, they abandoned the direct loose biographical method in favor of an indirect or oblique narrative. Okay, so their life, their self, their surroundings, and the observation of their surroundings from their own viewpoint got importance through the narrative of their writing. Okay, and with great concern for pattern and composition, and that's why you will get that their setup, the setup of their narrative, or the settings they used in their novel, the characters they introduced through their concept, in some cases very much different. যদি উল্টে দেখো কেউ হয়তো বুক ওয়াইজ বুক 1 2 3 করে একবার ইম্পর্টেন্স দিচ্ছে, কেউ টাইটেল দিয়ে ইম্পর্টেন্স দিচ্ছে, কেউ লঙ্গার প্যারাতে লিখছে, কারো কারো ন্যারেটিভ দেখা যাচ্ছে ভেরি মাচ ডিটেল। যেমন আমি যদি লরেন্সের কথা বলি, সে তার মানে সাইকোলজিক্যাল যে পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ থেকে when he writes something or when he portrays something, then we see that he was very much detailed in his elaboration of psychological state. যদি আমরা হার্ডির কথা বলি, Hardy is very much was very much elaborative in explaining the surroundings, in explaining the situation. একটা বিষয়ে যাওয়ার আগে অনেক বেশি ন্যারেটিভ অ্যাপ্লাই করেছে। সো বাট আবার দেখা গেছে যে and because of their differentiation in their viewpoint, because of their use of variety in their writing and different of structure, we see that how this Hardy or D.H. Lawrence or Henry Fielding, they wrote many voluminous tasks. I mean, their novels were very much voluminous in size. ঠিক আছে, মানে এত they didn't try to avoid their reality. So as they are feeling that they are talking about the human being, the reality of human being, they got that, or they found that they have many things to say. And to make us understand, to make the reader understand that they are just screening the situation. They screened the situation properly, and because of this screening, the writing style, the narrative, and the pattern and structure of the novel got its own look that was sometimes very much voluminous. Okay? এবং বলছেন and characterization built on the study of the inner consciousness. The characterization built on the study of the inner consciousness, because as the inner consciousness, that means as they concentrated on their self, realistic self. So the realistic self is not only combined only with the physical self and emotions and imagination. Rather, it covers intellect, brain, and psyche. Okay. It is in আচ্ছা, তারপরে বলছে, এরপরে আমরা বলে যাই না আরেকটা পয়েন্ট, এটা বলছে another view was that, আচ্ছা আমরা এইটুকুতে আর না যাই, এরপরে আমরা যাই নোবেলের পরে আসছে নোবেলের পরেই যারা আসলো আচ্ছা এই সময়কার মানে একদম different in some sense this in this way that the writing the theme of the writing Rudyard Kipling is another important for because of his theme of writing কিরকম he his journalistic experience served him in good state throughout his career, and his prose works, which include stories of Indian life, of children, of animals, are told with great vitality. Okay. He has an inventive faculty, a romantic taste for the adventurous and the supernatural, and an apparently careless, very colloquial style, which ensured for his work a popular reception. His insistent proclamation of superiority of the white races of Britain and unbounded mission of extended through her imperial policy, the benefits of civilization to the rest of the world, his beliefs in progress and the value of the machine found an echo in the heart of many of his readers. Into the period of the decadent writer, he swept like a gale of invigorating salt air, glorifying the values of action, meaning manliness, loyalty, and self-sacrifice. And if his work betrayed occasional lapse of taste of excursion into the melodramatic or sentimental, they were not faults of such a kind of. And Rudyard Kipling এর আমরা কোনো বইয়ের নাম জানি? Rudyard Kipling, Jungle Book, common, the Jungle Book.
Yes, ma'am.
So he started this. That's why he is important, because he started to look life going beyond the life. And because of his profession, as he started his life as a journalist, because of his profession, he used to write some other different things. And you see here mentioned that he visited many countries. Okay, not only European countries, he visited Asia, and because of colonialism, this Asia was when people or the writers visited Asia, and it was commonly, or certainly, it was the visit of India. So, and that time, as because of Indian territory, the expanded territory of India, this the experience and at the same time, the colonial perspective, due to the remaining or prevailing situation of colonial hegemony, this writer or the writers who visited India had different outlook. And according to Rudyard Kipling, he wrote or he applied Indian values, Indian practices, beliefs, and his experience in his writing. At the same time, he, as I mentioned that the Jungle Book, he used or he applied different themes, different ideas. So, for example, here, in Jungle Book, he applied he talked about animals, এবং তারপরে হচ্ছে জাস্ট আরেকটা হচ্ছে একদম যদি খুব কমন বলি, টেলস ফ্রম দ্য হিলস, so the phantom rickshaw, Willy Winky, যেটা Willy Winky, a person whose different self, whose adventurous self was portrayed in his Willy Winky's life, facing the reality of the wartime reality. Okay, so Rudyard Kipling claims credit for reintroduce realism and a racy vigor into the wars of the 90s. And when it is a matter of use of realism, then realism is common idea that applied all through the writers and all over the modern period. ঠিক আছে? So this realism, idea of realism or the philosophy of realism is common in common aspects in modern writing. Okay, আমরা এখন চলে যাই যে জর্জ বার্নার্ড শো, because as he is very important to introduce the form of modern drama. কিরকম? And Bernard Shaw was born in Dublin of Irish Protestant stock, and there received somewhat scanty education at a number of local schools, including the Wilson Connectional School. Most of the cultural background he owed to his mother, a talented woman with whom in 1876 he came to London. So in modernist literature, or it is noticeable that the writers somehow belong to an educated family. Most of the writers belong to an educated family. Okay, here and it reflected a lot in their writing and thinking. Okay, here he became an active member of the Fabian Society soon after it was founded in 1884. Okay, if we advance more, Shaw's plays are here considered in the order of their composition. His first works were received with hostility, and the need to create his own audience led him to publish some of them before they were produced. Where in the following account, 2 dates are given for a play that they indicate the date of composition. Play was produced almost as soon as completed. On his later pieces, few except those which we tell his plays, both pleasant and unpleasant, contained 7 works, 3 unpleasant and 4 pleasant. That is, we are talking about the pattern structure of the novel. And here in drama, besides the usual containing of act and scene, here how G.B. Shaw or George Bernard Shaw structured his drama, that is known as pleasant and unpleasant. He categorized some chapters, some ideas as pleasant and some are unpleasant. So here that is 3 unpleasant and 4 pleasant. The setup, the pattern he applied in drama, this is uncommon. Say for example, our earlier ম্যাকফ্ল্যাকনো, যেটা বলছিলাম, ম্যাকফ্ল্যাকনো, দ্য রেপ অফ দ্য লভ, অথবা আমরা যদি এলিজাবেথান ড্রামার কথা চিন্তা করি, we were very much it was very much used to come out to us as act 1 scene 1, act 2 scene 2, act 3 scene 1 2 3 4 এরকম। এবং আমরা বেশিরভাগ সময় দেখেছি যে act 3 Act 3 is the most important act, where the situation or the action came into its highest peak. Okay, তাই না, মোটের উপর। But here we see that how they tried to avoid the common structure of act and scene. Rather, they applied they formed the drama according to the importance of or according to the demand of the realistic approach of the writer. Okay, আচ্ছা, বলছে এরপরে বলছে the first 2 were unflinching and deep examination of slum landlordism and organized prostitution, respectively. They are well constructed and contain flashes of Shavian wit, but their serious realism proved unpalatable for the times and merely brought their author notoriety. The same earnestness mars the more narrowly topical The Philanderer, a satire on the pseudo-obscenities and their attitude to women. Okay? এবং এই মডার্ন সময়ে এসে মডার্ন পিরিয়ডে এসে যেমন অ্যাবসার্ডিজম গ্রো করেছে মেইনলি অন দ্য বেসিস অফ the hollowness, nothingness they gain from the World War II. But at the same time, they started to write যদিও ম্যাকফ্ল্যাকনো অথবা রিপ অফ দ্য লক থেকে we found that satire was used to apply in the form of drama, but that satire was one kind of personal satire. But here in this modern drama, we see that the satire they applied in their writing, in their drama, not only attacking personally or some other individual self, rather they criticize the system of what? System of institutions, system of religion, system of politics, system of economics, or society. So that's why their satirical form, their theme of satire, or their idea they applied through satire was different. Okay. Say for example, যেমন আরেকটা বলছে যে প্লিজেন্ট প্লেস হিসেবে যেটাকে আরেকটাকে দেখা যায় যে আর্মস এন্ড দ্য ম্যান, যেটা আমরা সবার আগে পড়েছি, বলছে আর্মস এন্ড দ্য ম্যান, an excellent and amusing stage piece which pokes fun at the romantic conception of the soldier and which has since achieved great popularity. It was the first of the truly Shavian plays. আচ্ছা, এখন যেহেতু আর্মস এন্ড দ্য ম্যানের কথা এসেছে, we can remember the construction of Arms and the Man. ওখানে কি আমরা act 1 scene 1, act 2 scene 2 এরকম করে পেয়েছি? Rather, the construction of the drama or the construction of the play grown according to the action of the characters. ঠিক কিনা? শুনছো তোমরা?
Yes, ma'am.
আচ্ছা, তাহলে তার বার্নার্ড শয়ের মেইন পয়েন্টস গুলো কি ছিল? বার্নার্ড শ, আচ্ছা, আরেকটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট প্রোডাকশন অথবা রাইটিং অথবা ড্রামা বলি, যেটাই হচ্ছে ড্রামা বলি বা ওর নভেল বলি, সেটা হচ্ছে ম্যান এন্ড সুপারম্যান। ওয়ান অফ নভেল টাইপের, মানে একটু ভলিউমাস হলো, সেটা একটু ভলিউমাস। কিরকম বলছে, one of Shaw's most important plays deals half seriously, half comically with woman's pursuit of her mate. Woman's pursuit of her mate. The woman persuading for her love. Is this a common before modern period? Is this the common?
No, ma'am.
It is very uncommon. It is very uncommon that a woman is persuading to her love. Okay. So in Man and Superman, one of Shaw halfly comically and halfly seriously portrayed, convey her mate is very nicely portrayed. The play is first statement of his idea of the life he feels here can be reached only by the selective breeding which will eventually produce the Superman. The play is unconventional in its construction, especially in the third act entitled Don Juan in Hell. But it is a fine drama and content he applied in his writing. So in Man and Superman or his Arms and the Men, and in most of his writing, he was writing that means in most of his plays he used satire or comic or witty dialogues as a tool of modernist, not only modernist characteristics, but also to create it in a humorous way or convey it in a light way. Because of that, if you as he started that, if he start it with seriousness, only seriousness cannot convey serious issues, serious ideas, serious thing cannot convey the exact scenario of the society. So through comical dialogue or satirical tone or light way and by using witty dialogues, he conveyed the real message that he tried to throw to the society and to the readers and convey the and picturize the reality of the society. And yes, and in Arms and the Men, he criticizes through his tone, comical tone or satirical tone, he criticizes the idea of love and war. And here you see he gave the equal importance both the men and women, that is Raina and Sergius, Bluntschli, Sergius and Raina. He gave the equal importance. On the other hand, in Man and Superman, he applied an unusual theme, unusual idea, that is how yes, of course, women can persuade men. Though from the very beginning of the modern period, it was an unusual idea. And again, these modernist writers are very much conflicting to religion. So religion, social problems are also the main topics. Likewise, other writers, Divisho also applied this. Applied criticism of religion and conveyed social problems in his writing. And to apply or to attack religion and social problems, he in his plays was or the organization of his plays is somehow melodramatic. What sort of melodramatic, or what do you know about melodrama? Melodrama কি থাকে?
Ma'am, combination of both tragic and comic effects.
And the serious issues are involved with what? Bloodshed, attack. ঠিক আছে? So এইরকম this melodramatic, he was, when you see he was discussing on serious issues like attacking religion or portraying social problems, social crisis, but at the same time he was very much the way he approached to the religion and social crisis, social problems, it was very much acceptable to the audience, to the readers. So that's why with his use of melodramatic elements in his plays, the plays which were very much, which were heavy in content, was very much acceptable to the modernist readers or to the modernist audience. Okay, and as a religious theme is combined with an attack and on the attack, but we see that he also find out the another new idea, that is the relationship between parent and children. That relationship, that is that relationship between father and mother, relationship between father, mother and son, relationship between parents and children. So we noticed in D.H. Lawrence's novel, but this time, this GB show, though Lawrence wrote novel, or in this Lawrence showed this theme, that is the relationship of mother and father, and relationship of mother and son, mother and daughter, father and son, father and daughter. That is the familial relationship Lawrence applied in his novel, but here G. Bishop portrayed this, conveyed this relationship, that is parental relationship, to their children into his place. So it is difficult for setting up these issues, unusual issues in that play, and Shaw was very much successful for portraying this sort of variety of ideas in his plays. And in his writing, social conventions and social weakness were very much common. Social problems and weakness. At the same time, he showed us that how he tried to broke up the social conventions through his writing. Okay, and now if we talk about the features of his plays, you will see that he described that the ideas of his plays were their most important feature, because the his ideas has varieties. Okay, he saw the stage as a platform for his views and reluctantly added the role of the entertainer only his three unpleasant. At the same time, in Man and Superman and other plays, he proclaimed not proclaim, যেটা বলি যে he in his other poem, that is not pleasant, in unpleasant place, in his unpleasant place, we see that religion was the main theme of his plays. It was Shaw's delight always to turn the social scene inside out to show the other side of the accepted pictures. Okay, he always turned the other pages, other part of the coin. Okay? A process which he undertook with his roughish humor, a delight in shocking the conventions, and a provoking mixture of serious argument and the more or less fantastic fooling. Okay, his prefaces are very striking. Give me 1 second. Okay, যেটা বলছিলাম যে he was very much, as he applied a serious tone and comical tone, we found that G.B. Shaw was very much emphatic and at the same time, parallelly, he was very much emphatic and authoritarian in his tone. Okay. But another important characteristics of his writing is that uh, as he applied wit in his writing. His sense of fun is undenying, and there in his drama an endless stream of exuberant vitality of gaiety of spirits. Sometimes his sense of humor is uncontrolled, and the result is disturbing. তার মানে if his writing was filled with humor, then it somehow lost the sense that the theme or the idea he applied here to carry the real tone of the theme or idea. That's why it was disturbing for the critic says that it was somehow disturbing if it as it was not much controlled. But generally, it can be said that there is a serious purpose underlying in his fun. Okay, in a dramatics, so intellectual, so persistently witty, so detached from his subject, it is not surprising to find that there is relatively little emotion. So Shaw rarely touches the depths of the true tragedy, at the same time true comedy. Okay, indeed, Shaw seems to distrust the emotion, as we can gather from his attitude toward love and his ideal of the pure intelligence, which is the ultimate perfection envisaged in his other plays. Okay, character. What are the characters of G.B. Shaw's writing? We'll say after Shakespeare, no English dramatist equals Shaw in the variety and vividness of his characters. Okay, so G.B. Shaw is very much important in modernist literature, especially in drama or in plays. As likewise Shakespeare, he posed or he organized variety of theme and characters in his plays. Okay, and the characters of Shaw are largely seen as the products of what? Of good or bad, of social forces, or as the representative of ideas. Some are mere mouthpieces for his theories, while others are really projection of his own personality. Okay, and his dialogue was from the beginning of the highest order. Throughout his life, Shaw was a brilliant talker, and he used this gift to great advantage in his plays. He excels in brief, witty exchanges, and amiable in the handling of extremely long speeches when his characters put forward their carefully reasoned argument. আর ড্রামাটিক টেকনিকের কথা যদি বলাই হয় সেটা হচ্ছে in spite of the emphasis which he placed in his ideas, Shaw rarely neglected the art of the theatre, and his best plays are excellent on the boards. His sense of the stage was clearly illustrated in the skill with which he supervised rehearsal on his plays. And to begin with, followed the conventional dramatic patterns of his age, and it was only when his reputation was established that he began such experiments as the epilogue to Man and Superman and the gigantic cycle of Back to Mythosele. One of his most interesting innovations is the use of the long stage direction, written with all the care and artistry of his dialogues and prefaces. So it is common that in his drama he used epilogue, preface, body, and the conclusion, and that is the conclusion means last message, last scene. So these all were well organized, though they were halfly comical and half comical and half serious. এরপর যদি আমরা যাই তার দিকে, পোয়েট যদি ধরি, সেটা হচ্ছে গ্রামার পরে, বা আমরা একটু বলেছিলামই যে আমরা একটু যাবো একটু সিলেক্টিভ কাউকে পড়বো, সেটা হচ্ছে উইলিয়াম বাটলার ইয়েটস। সো আমরা যেটা পড়ছি, দ্য হিস্ট্রি অফ ইংলিশ লিটারেচার অথবা দ্য হিস্ট্রি অফ মডার্ন ইংলিশ লিটারেচার, this English literature is not only covering the literature in England or literature in London. Rather, this English literature covers some other areas. What are these? England is what? Englandের সাথে আর কোন areas are related to English literature?
Ireland, ma'am.
Ireland, Scotland. ঠিক আছে? England, Ireland, Scotland. Okay. So, Yeatsের বেলায় বলছে, Yeats born near Dublin of a cultured Irish family. Yeats was educated in London and returned to Ireland in 1880 and soon afterwards embarked on literary career. Yeatsের ক্ষেত্রে বলছে, like so many of his contemporaries, Yeats was acutely conscious of his spiritual barrenness of his age, that is modern period, and his whole artistic career is best seen as an attempt at first to escape from the sordid materialism which he found in every hand, and later to formulate a new positive ideal which would supply his spiritual need. So likewise other writers, the writers are not writers, likewise other novelists or dramatists, W.B. Yeats was somehow related to spiritual religion, somehow related to religion, and though he was very much careful about the religious vagueness in his time, or religious hollowness in his time. Okay. He, as a believer in magic and kindred arts, that is special arts, yet sought to escape into the land of fairy and looked for his themes in Irish legend and the simple elements impulse of man's primitive nature. The best remedy for the emptiness of the present seemed to lie in return to the, okay, what sort of spirituality, what sort of moralistic approach we find in W.B. Yeats's writing or poetry? It is that whereas the novelist or the dramatist we found in this modern period, we see that they lost hope, they lost their belief on the other human beings, on the superiors, and they tried to rely on their individuality, on their own self, whereas these Yeats concentrated mostly on his superiors. The superiors are those who shaped his countries, who created his countries, or who played important role to shape his country, Ireland. And that's why we are talking about that he is somehow carrying moralistic approach regarding other dramatists, other novelists of his age. Okay, and what sort of spirit he applied or he showed in his writing to the superiors or to the important figures of his land. He always paid tribute to his seniors, that is who fought for Ireland, who fought for goodness of Ireland, and he যেটা বলছে এখানে, যে বলছে যে the legendary people, legendary people who contributed a lot to form Ireland, yes, yes, was very much grateful to them. So in his poet, being the modernist poet, he also pay homage to the superiors. Through his writings, he paid homage to the seniors. Okay, এবং between 1900 and 1910, much of Yeats' time was devoted to the drama and philosophical literary essay, but such poetry as was produced during this period shows a gradual movement away from the escapism of his early works. So from his early life, when he turned from Ireland to England, and that time, because of his reminiscing Irish life, the life of Ireland, and the seniors, missing the seniors contribution of the seniors of the Ireland, though he was living in England, rather he felt that he was empty because of his leaving his country. His emptiness, his hollowness, nothingness occurred due to his living, due to his escapist nature, and to miss his own country. So that's why we see that one kind of patriotic zeal in his writing. ঠিক আছে? আচ্ছা, আরেকটু যাই, কোয়ালিটিস অফ পোয়েট্রি যদি বলি, যে ইন হিজ পোয়েট্রি হোয়াট ফিলসফি হি অ্যাপ্লাইড। In his poetry, there is no exaggeration to describe Yeats as one of the most difficult of modern poets. কেন? বলছে his preoccupation with the attempt to formulate a philosophical system which could replace the scientific materialism of his age underlies most of his later works. It is doubtful whether he ever succeeded in crystallizing a complete systemized philosophy, and his most comprehensive exposition of his idea is in many places was very obscure. After his brief period, as he primarily belonged to the pre-Raphaelite society, pre-Raphaelite poet, pre-Raphaelite escapism also applied in his poetry, and he gradually evolved his own positive faith. His trust was in the imagination and intuition of man rather than in scientific reasoning. That's why he was different from the novelist and dramatist. And his attempt was to reach back through the study of Irish folklore and legend to the primitive impulse of human life. The natural man, he felt to be more in contact with these primary forces than the intellectual man of the world. And this idea and his great belief in passion or frenzy led in his later work to a constant assertion of the importance of human individuality. So you see, his philosophy of individualism or human individuality is a bit different from the prevailing philosophical idea of individualism, whereas the others thought that individualism will carry or individualism will start asking, questioning, and get answered through reasoning, whereas Yeats thought that this individualism can be, or the self can be self, if it allows its or he or she allows his or her passion, emotion, imagination. Understand? So that's why the poets, the poets of modern period, or W.B. Yeats, is different from the prevailing dramatist, novelist of modern period. Understand? বুঝাতে পারছি? And his an ideal type of being was the solitary soul. Yeatsের কথা হচ্ছে an ideal being was the solitary soul. So this solitary soul, though he is talking about solitary soul, the solitary soul consists of loneliness. Sense of alienation is also there, but this sense of alienation or loneliness is what is celebrated by W.B. Yeats. And this sort of celebration of loneliness or solitary soul is what? It's Yeats's type of individualism. আমরা কিন্তু আরেকবার শেষ হচ্ছে about to end, but আরেকবার একটু জয়েন করবো কারণ আমাদের কি পড়তে হবে, এলিয়টকে একটু পড়তে হবে। ওকে, আচ্ছা বলছি Yeats believed in fairies, magic and other forms of superstition, and his later thought was much influenced by his study of Indian and other mystical philosophies and other excursion into spiritualism, which became more frequent after his marriage in 1916 to a medium. Convinced of the immorality of the soul, he saw in a man a dual personality made up of self, which is the product of man's social training, and anti-self, which is constantly struggling against self to find freedom in the world of spirit. Between this world of spirit and the world of reality, he found a bridge in his poetry. So his poetry is very different from the modernist writing and modernist literature, because he tried to amalgamate both imagination and reality through his writing. এবং when we say that some writers are some writers are avoiding spiritual concepts or spirituality of self, here we see Yeats were possessing strong spiritual sense, and that's why, because of his self, the idea of self, this is his own individualism, his own individual self, as the self has two images, self and anti-self. So he applied some components, the common components of his writing was use of symbols, or he applied symbolism in his writing. Okay. বলছে by means of using symbolism, he succeeds in expressing those deep emotional experience which is felt to be otherwise incapable of poetical communication, but sometimes they serve only to accentuate the obscurity of his poems. The reader's difficulties arise mainly from Yeats's use of the same symbol to represent a variety of things. Thus, to the tower may represent, among other things, an intellectual refuge or the source of earning for the world of the spirit. Others of his well-known symbols are the moon, the swan, Byzantium is the place, swan, hangsho, hash, moon. যদি আমরা ইয়ার্সের কয়েকটা আজকে একটু উল্টে যদি দেখো যে ইয়ার্সের কয়েকটা কবিতার নাম দেখা যাবে যে সোয়ান, মুন, সেলিং টু বাইজেন্টিয়াম, এই নামে, বাইজেন্টিয়ান নামে তার তিনটা কবিতা আছে। সোয়ান, ওয়াইল্ড সোয়ান এট কুল, তারপরে হচ্ছে সিম্বলিক্যাল প্রেজেন্ট, মানে সোয়ান নিয়েও, মানে এই ইমেজ গুলা, এই সিম্বল গুলা ইউজ করে, but though he applied these symbols in various poetry, but these symbols carried different meaning, different concept in different poetry. Okay, this is W.B. Yeats. And yes, of course, he wrote some poetry or drama. Besides poetry, he wrote some drama or he wrote some prose, but all in his writing he applied his own philosophy of self, that is individualism, and his own idea of spirituality. Okay, আচ্ছা এবার চলে যাব আমরা ইলিয়টের কাছে যাওয়ার আগে, যেহেতু মডার্ন পিরিয়ড পড়ছিলাম, সেই জায়গায় আরেকজন ইম্পর্টেন্ট, ওকে বাদ দেই, আমরা অ্যাকচুয়ালি ইলিয়টের কাছে চলে যাই। ইলিয়ট যতটা না মডার্নিস্ট রাইটার, মডার্নিস্ট ফিগার, তার চেয়ে বেশি he was the result of the World War II, and he exposed in his writing the utter nothingness drawn from the World War II. কিরকম? sorry, বলছে, though he became a naturalized British subject, Eliot was born in St. Louis, Missouri. His family was of Devonshire origin, and its tradition were in commerce and academic studies. Okay, so আমরা এটাও যেটা একটু আগেও বলেছিলাম যে these writers are very much carrying the educative family যেটা reflected in their thinking, writing, and practices. Okay, so Eliot started his writing from the very famous writing is the Wasteland and the Prufrock and other observation, where in these two writing he portrays in contemptuous and often wittily ironical satire the boredom, emptiness, and pessimism of his own days. Okay, the poet tries to plumb the less subverted depths of contemporary life in a series of sordid episodes. The irregularities of rhyme scheme and the line length in his words, from the pressure of his condensed and the often vividly constructed images, the skillful use of rhythmic variation, and the restrained power of his style distinguished Eliot as a gifted original artist. So though he is different, as we introduced T.S. Eliot as poet, modern poet, but somehow he is different from Yeats, W.B. Yeats. Why? In which sense? W.B. Yeats used or applied or come to us as lyrical poet, whereas this T.S. Eliot was familiar with his unconventional setup of unconventional style of writing poetry. Rather, he followed no rhyme scheme, no rhythm in his poetry. So, and what he wrote, that is originated from his own thinking, originated his own writing style. Okay, বলছে, and that's why this though he didn't follow the usual conventional rhyme scheme or rhythm, and but his poetry or his poem contained and convinced the society, convinced that then people, we understood that this Eliot or the people regarded this Eliot with a poetic genius. Okay, with his poetic genius, and you see this Eliot applied the dramatic dramatic elements in his poetry. Say, for example, he applied monologue in his the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock in his Wasteland, and he applied blank verse. That blank verse was applied in Elizabethan drama, whereas some other used free verse. Some other poet used free verse, but here he applied Elizabethan dramatic form blank verse in his poetry. Okay. His much discussed poem, The Wasteland, made a tremendous impact on the post-war generation and is considered one of the most important documents of its age. The poem is difficult to understand in detail, but its general aim is clear. Based on the legend of the Fisher King in